We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lepakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. The presidential race remains neck to neck as the US awaits the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on Tuesday. Wildfires fueled by soaring temperatures in the western United States forces thousands to flee. Brazil faces severe drought amid devastating wildfires and low water levels in the rivers. EU Foreign Policy Chief says European Union ready to offer logistical capacities to reopen Rafah border, urges political solution for Gaza conflict. US markets gives thumbs up as Apple unveils new iPhone series built for generative artificial intelligence. End of an unforgettable era as Hollywood mourns the demise of award-winning American stage legend James Earl Jones. And on to the details now. U.S. presidential race remains neck to neck as the U.S. awaits the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on Tuesday. The 90-minute debate organized by ABC News will take place at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia at 9 p.m. local time. Pre-written notes are prohibited and mics will be muted to ensure a fair exchange. Polls indicate a tight race, making this debate crucial in shaping voter opinions. DD India's Syed Absarul Hassan has filed this report.
The much-awaited U.S. presidential television debate will take place on Tuesday. Presidential hopefuls Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will lock horns, which is expected to be watched across the world. U.S. broadcaster ABC News will be holding the 90 minutes debate at National Constitution Center in Philadelphia at 9 p.m. local time and will be aired live. The two candidates have never met in person. U.S. presidential hopeful Kamala Harris is ready to face her opponent Donald Trump in the debate.
Trump wants to jail election workers. Madam Vice President, do you have a reaction?
Madam Vice President, how will you handle it on the debate stage if Trump decides to launch a personal attack?
Are you ready, Madam Vice President?
Ready.
Former U.S. President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump continued his attack on Kamala Harris and accused her to be the worst vice president in the history of the United States.
This wealth fund will return a gigantic profit which will help pay down national debt. We're going to work on national debt very strongly, by the way. We're going to have so much money coming in. We're going to work on national debt. We're close to $36 trillion right now. We're going to work on getting it down. And it is many of the people in this room who will be helping to advise and recommend investments for this fund. This is how we will end the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery under Kamala Harris, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
The rule of the debate is different from other television debates. No opening statements are allowed, but they will be allotted 2 minutes to answer each question, with 2 minutes granted to their opponents for a rebuttal, and there will be an additional minute for a follow-up, clarification, and response against the rebuttal. Pre-written notes and materials are not allowed in the debate. Candidates are given a pen and paper to note down their questions and comments. Questions or topics are not shared in advance with any candidates, and mic of one of the candidate will be muted when the other is speaking. According to polls released, the U.S. presidential race remains neck and neck. Syed Absarul Hassan reporting for DD India.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden celebrated the 34th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act on Monday. Biden highlighted his Vice President Kamala Harris' commitment in advancing opportunities for people with disabilities by fostering economic transformation. He also praised the efforts of U.S. Paralympic athletes at the Paris Paralympic Games.
But for more than 61 million Americans living with disabilities, these laws are a source of opportunity, respect, and pride, and dignity now. Dignity. Kamala and I have been so determined to move our nation forward for Americans living with disabilities. We're transforming the way the economy works for all Americans. For example, people with disabilities are working more than they ever did before. And our short term, our short term, going to be a long term for Kamala, I hope.
While U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in the United Kingdom ahead of talks with officials about Ukraine and the Middle East on Monday. During the two-day trip, Blinken will meet with senior government officials to discuss issues related, including the Indo-Pacific, the AUKUS Defense Pact between the U.S., Australia, Britain and the Middle East, and collective efforts to support Ukraine. The visit comes a week after Britain suspended some arms export licenses with Israel over equipment that could be used in the conflict with Gaza. And White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that the United States cannot confirm reports that Iran had supplied Russia with ballistic missiles.
I cannot confirm the reports that the transfer has happened, but I would point you to what we've said in the past, that any such provision of that kind of technology would not only have a deleterious effect on the Ukrainians' ability to continue to defend themselves and certainly on the lives and livelihoods of Ukrainians, but could, depending on what the deal, how it's consummated, have equally deleterious effects on the Middle East. And Iran that already has an improving ballistic missile program.
Well, updates on Israel-Hamas conflict now. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said Monday the European Union is ready to leverage its logistics to assist in reopening the border crossing. In a visit to Egypt's side of the Rafah border crossing, Borrell also mentioned sanctions proposed against ministers, agencies and institutions implicated in the legal expansion of colonies in the West Bank. Borrell toured the border operations guided by the Egyptian Red Crescent and met in Cairo with the country's president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
I made a proposal to the Foreign Affairs Council Minister to impose sanctions in 2 Israeli government ministers for hate speech. And the Council discussed about it and decided to go to the technical bodies. It's still not yes, it's still not no. I don't know which will be the final result, but it's still not no. The technical bodies of the Council are working on it. There are not only these 2 ministers, but also some agencies, some institutions which we believe are responsible for the illegal expansion of colonies in the West Bank, which are also being proposed as sanctions.
Well, the United States called on Israel on Monday to complete a full inquiry into the killing of an American-Turkish woman last week in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. In a briefing, U.S. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel urged Israel to quickly and robustly conduct its probe and make the findings public, but confirmed the administration is not planning to independently investigate the killing of Aynasur Ezgi Aigi. Meanwhile, hundreds of mourners gathered in Nablus in the occupied West Bank to pay respects to the U.S.-Turkish activist.
We have urged a swift, thorough, and transparent investigation and are urgently working to get more information as possible as it relates to the circumstances of her death. We have no higher priority than the safety and security of American citizens, especially those that are abroad. our understanding is that our partners in Israel are looking into the circumstances of what happened, and we expect them to make their findings public, and expect that whatever those findings are, expect them to be thorough and transparent.
Well, Germany is extending temporary border controls that it already has in place at some of its borders to all of its land borders to tackle irregular migration. Germany's Interior Ministry said they would be asking for temporary internal border controls at the land borders with France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Belgium and Denmark for a period of 6 months. The German government has been consulting with the main opposition party on ways to curb migration, and following a deadly knife attack by a Syrian asylum seeker last month in the city of Solingen. Meanwhile, Austria's Interior Minister Gerhard Kahner said on Monday that his country would not take in any migrants turned away by Germany at the border. And Australia will ban children from using social media with a minimum age limit as high as 16. Federal legislation to keep children off social media will be introduced this year, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said, describing the impact of the sites on young people as a scourge. An age verification trial will be conducted in the coming months before legislation is introduced by the end of this year. And weather updates from across the globe now. Super Typhoon Yagi that swept through Southeast Asian nation of Vietnam over the weekend killed at least 21 people and injured 229 others. Vietnam's most powerful storm in 30 years has wreaked havoc across the north of the country, leaving 1.5 million people without power. The typhoon tore roofs from buildings, uprooted trees and left widespread damage to infrastructure and factories in the north. According to local weather report, the city is expected to see more rain in the coming days, adding to the challenge of its cleanup work. Well, the Amazon in Brazil is facing one of the most severe droughts in recent years. Water levels in the rivers have fallen and access to clean water has become an uphill task for the locals. Our next report gets you more details on this.
In the heart of the Brazilian Amazon, a drought is putting lives at risk. The usually lush and vibrant region is facing an unprecedented water crisis as rivers dry up. Residents are struggling as they have to walk miles to fetch water. The plummeting water levels in rivers have deprived them of their traditional source of water. Now they are forced to buy tanks. The costs are taking a toll on the already impoverished rural community.
Without water, nobody lives. There is no way. Here, you can get water day and night. There is always water. I don't charge a penny. I pay for the water, but I don't charge them anything.
The elderly and sick are amongst the hardest hit, facing severe health risks as access to clean water becomes increasingly scarce.
About 800 meters, that's the distance of the beach. Now imagine a person in the hot sun, people with high blood pressure doing this journey. It gets difficult, very difficult. That is why we saw the need to mobilize.
The drought has been aggravated by wildfires, deforestation and rising temperatures. To make the situation worse, the Brazilian Geological Service has warned that water levels in more rivers in the Amazon basin are expected to hit historical lows. Bureau Report, DD India.
Fast-growing wildfire forcing evacuations in Southern California shows the danger the state now faces as record-smashing heat waves dry out the landscape just as the Santa Ana wind season is due to begin. More than 10,000 people are under mandatory evacuation orders due to a fast-spreading, uncontrolled wildfire in the state. The line fire also threatens thousands of homes, businesses and other buildings in San Bernardino County, east of Los Angeles. The wildfire, which started on Thursday, spread rapidly overnight on Saturday, causing California Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a state of emergency. The blaze on the edge of San Bernardino National Forest had grown to more than 20,000 acres as of early on Monday. Smoke skies pose a challenge for aircraft and are limiting their access to parts of the fire. Hot and dry conditions mixed with thunderstorms are expected to continue to challenge firefighters over the next few days. Dangerous heat is expected across the U.S. Southwest and Southern California into early this week. Meanwhile, the White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre on Monday said that the White House officials were monitoring wildfires in California and Nevada.
We are praying for the thousands of Americans under mandatory evacuations under orders out west. Senior administration officials are monitoring the fires, including the Line Fire in California and the Davis Fire in Nevada, and are in close touch with state and local leaders to ensure they have the resources they need. Over 7,000 federal personnel are supporting local firefighting efforts across multiple states.
While indigenous people in the northwestern Peruvian state of Lambayeque battled wildfires with tree branches on Sunday. The wildfires are threatening 64,000 pine tree seedlings, potentially damaging the local economy. The wildfires have killed at least one person and 16 others suffered smoke inhalation poisoning in the region. Authorities have asked residents of the district to evacuate and sought support from the Peruvian Air Force to combat the fires. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to visit Germany EAM to hold meeting with German leadership to review the entire gamut of bilateral relations. We'll tell you all about the second phase of the multilateral exercise Tarang Shakti, which is being held at Jodhpur Air Force Station. And Google faces its second major antitrust trial in less than a year, with the US government accusing the tech giant of unfairly dominating online advertising and stifling competition. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar visited Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for the first ever India-GCC joint ministerial meeting for strategic dialogue. Foreign ministers of all the GCC countries and Secretary General of the GCC attended. EAM Jaishankar underscored the significance of the strategic and growing partnership between the Gulf Cooperation Council and India. Here's the report.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has stressed that India has consistently stood for the resolution of the Palestinian issue through a two-state solution. While addressing the first India-Gulf Cooperation Council Foreign Ministers meeting in Saudi Arabia's capital Riyadh, Dr. Jaishankar called for a ceasefire in Gaza as soon as possible.
The current situation in Gaza is now understandably our foremost concern. India's position in this regard has been principled and consistent. While we condemn acts of terrorism and hostage-taking, we are deeply pained by the continuing death of innocent civilians. Any response must take into account the principles of humanitarian law. We support a ceasefire as soon as possible. On the larger issue, we have consistently stood for a resolution of the Palestinian issue through a two-state solution.
The External Affairs Minister added that the relationship between India and the GCC is rooted in a rich tapestry of history, culture, and shared values.
The GCC is a cornerstone of global energy supply. India is one of the world's largest and fastest growing markets. Much of the future demand is going to come from us. Our deeper collaboration will help in stabilizing markets, driving innovation, and enhancing energy security.
On Monday, Dr. Jaishankar also held a series of meetings with his GCC counterparts, during which he reviewed the progress in bilateral relations and discussed ways to further deepen them. Dr. Jaishankar held a meeting with Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani on the margins of the GCC meeting. Dr. Jaishankar also met Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. Both the leaders took stock of the progress in India-Saudi Arabia bilateral relations and shared perspective on global and regional issues. The External Affairs Minister said he looked forward to welcoming his Saudi Arabia counterpart in India. Dr. Jaishankar also met the Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira. The discussions covered key multilateral issues including G20, BRICS, and the ongoing Ukraine conflict. The External Affairs Minister also met his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines of the GCC meeting in Riyadh. He also met his Omani counterpart Badr al-Busaidi, Bahrain's Foreign Minister Dr. Abdullah bin Rashid al-Zayani, and Kuwaiti Foreign Minister Abdullah Ali al-Yahya. The GCC region has emerged as a major trading partner for India and is home to a large Indian expatriate community numbering around 8.9 million. After the Riyadh meetings, Dr. Jaishankar left for Germany. With Vinod Kumar, Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, after concluding his visit to Saudi Arabia, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is visiting Germany. This will be his third visit as minister to Berlin. Both India and Germany share a robust strategic partnership, and Germany is one of India's prominent trading partners and among the largest foreign direct investors. Thereafter, the minister will travel to Switzerland for an official visit from the 12th to 13th of September. And the vice chiefs of all three Indian armed forces flew the indigenous light combat aircraft Tejas for the first time during a multilateral exercise in northwestern state of Rajasthan on Monday. Jodhpur Air Force Station is hosting the second phase of the multilateral exercise Tarang Shakti from August 29th to September 15th. During the event, Air Marshal A.P. Singh of the Air Force flew the single-seater LCA Tejas fighter jet, while the Navy and Army vice chiefs flew in the twin-seater trainer version of the LCA. Air Force of 8 nations, including India, are participating with their assets, and 16 other nations are witnessing the exercise as observer countries. And India's new permanent representative to the United Nations, Parvati Neni Harish, presented his credentials to the UN Secretary General at the UN headquarters. Harish conveyed Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's greetings to the UN chief. Harish arrived in New York last week to take charge as India's envoy to the world body. He hit the ground running and held bilateral meetings with several top UN leaders and his global counterparts. And big tech major business news now. Big tech major Apple unveiled its artificial intelligence boosted iPhone 16 range of smartphones at its flagship Glow Time event in Cupertino on Monday. Apple is betting the AI feature that will drive consumers to upgrade amid a slowdown in iPhone sales. Apple Intelligence, the company's AI software, will be used to improve its personal assistant Siri, as well as enhancing features such as understanding and identifying objects captured by the phone camera. A test version of Apple Intelligence will be available in the US version of English next month. Apple also unveiled iPhone 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max titanium models with a faster chip, the A18 Pro, and more AI capability. The iPhone 16 Pro will start at $999 and the 16 Pro Max starts at $1,199. And Google is all set to face its second antitrust trial since September 2023 against the Department of Justice over its alleged monopolistic power in the ad tech industry. This legal battle, taking place in a federal district court in Alexandria, Virginia, will center on allegations that Google has unlawfully maintained dominance in multiple facets of the online advertising ecosystem. The lawsuit, initiated in January 2023 by the Biden administration's Department of Justice, has gained support from 17 state attorney generals. Central to the case is the accusation that Google leveraged its leading search engine to enter the digital ad market, later solidifying its hold by acquiring competitors. Our news now from the world of entertainment. American stage legend James Earl Jones, the revered actor who voiced Star Wars villain Darth Vader, died on Monday at the age of 93 as Hollywood stars mourn his demise. Jones was also acclaimed for lending his voice to King Mufasa in Disney's animated feature The Lion King. Jones, a longtime sufferer of diabetes, died at his home surrounded by family members, as per his agent Barry McPherson, though no cause of death was provided. Jones had a prolific and varied career for over 6 decades, who worked with some of the greatest figures in cinema and theatre, including Stanley Kubrick in his 1964 Cold War satire, Dr. Strangelove. Widely regarded as among the world's greatest stage and screen actors, Jones is one of the few entertainers to have won the EGOT, that includes Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, though his Academy Award was honorary. And in sports news, India suffered a 0-3 loss in Syria in their second and final Intercontinental Cup 2024 match in Hyderabad on Monday. The loss meant that India finished last in the tournament, behind Mauritius on goal difference. Up against a side ranked 93rd in the FIFA World Rankings, India conceded an early 7th-minute goal. Despite creating many chances in the second half, it was Syria who scored the second against the run of play. A third goal in the 96th minute was the final dagger. Meanwhile, new head coach Manolo Marquez suffered his first loss as India coach, and he's yet to neither win a game nor see his side score a goal. And all right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.